Okay, so this is actually the third time I've tried to record this video. It has been a bit disastrous. The first time I had absolutely no plan or sense of organization, so it was just awful, and I don't think anyone would have been able to learn anything from it. The second time was slightly better, but I accidentally recorded the entire thing in the wrong file format, so I couldn't even use that recording. So we're back. I'm more organized. I'm prepared. I'm recording in the right file format now, so we're ready to get started. I am going to be showing you how to make the edit that you saw right at the beginning of this video. It's not that complicated. I think the only plugins you're gonna need are Sapphire and Twitch. I can leave links to videos on how to download those in the description. Pretty easy, both pretty simple. The way this video is going to be organized, I think, is I'm going to split it up into sections. I want this video to sort of be something, if you want to download the audio from my edit and use that, and you want to watch this video and do exactly what I do, feel free. Just, if you post it on Instagram, just, give me some credits, tag me or something. I'd love to see it. If you want to do that, you can. If you want to just skip ahead to the part you're interested in, feel free. All the timestamps are also going to be in the description. So first things first, it takes 5 steps to make an edit, essentially. The first one, opening After Effects and creating your composition. The second one, marking your audio. The third, importing your clips. The fourth, actually editing. And the fifth is your final touches and your rendering. So those are the 5 sections that I'm going to leave the timestamps for. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to be showing how to do today. So obviously, first things first, you're going to open After Effects. As you can see down here, I've got 2. I have the 2020 and the 2019 version. I'm going to be using the 2019 version just because I don't know, I like it better, I guess. It's what I learned on, I think. It got released April 2018, I want to say. So it's the one I learned on. I just prefer it. I mean, there's not really that many differences between 2020 and 2019. So if you have the 2020 version, it's not a big deal. If you have a version from 10 years ago, I don't even know if After Effects was a thing 10 years ago, but really this can be followed on any version. As you can see, right here is my recent file where I attempted to do this tutorial and then recorded everything in the wrong file format, so we're not going to be using that. But this is going to be the screen you see when you open After Effects. What you're going to do is you're going to come to New Project, just click that, and you will be brought to here. This is your workspace for After Effects. And this is also step 1, creating your composition. Very easy. The first thing you're going to do is click New Composition, and you're going to see this little pop-up window. The only things you're really going to need are your aspect ratio here, your frame rate, and your duration right here. Your background color should pretty much always be black. It's just easiest. Your frame rate should always be 29.97. You can change it if you want to go for a more artistic look. You can bring it down to 10 if you want your edit to be like super smooth. You could bring it up to 60, but for your average edit, 29.97 is plenty. For this edit, your aspect ratio should be 1920 by 1080. 1920 by 1080 is the average size of like a widescreen edit. If you were going to make a square edit, it'd be 1080 by 1080. But yeah, for this one, you're just going to say 1920 by 1080, 29.97, and then your duration, just make it about a minute. Well, there we go. This doesn't need to be exact right now, because all of this can be changed later. But for now, we're just going to make it about a minute. So you're going to hit OK, and this is what you will see. This is your composition. This is where your video is going to be playing, the preview. This is your timeline, where you have everything, where you're going to put your videos, where you're going to do your editing. And up here is your project and your effect controls. So we'll get to all of this stuff in a minute. If your screen looks different, there are two things I'd ask you to check. First is make sure this is 33.3%. These numbers just show how zoomed in you are on your composition. So, you can zoom in really far, you can zoom out really far. But for editing, it's easiest to have it on 33.3% because it gives you your entire composition without cutting anything off or, being too small. And then over here, make sure this is at quarter. This is just going to show how HD your preview is going to be up here. Keep it on quarter because that's just going to be way easier on your computer. If you have a nice computer with a graphics card, I mean, go for it, put it on half, put it on full, but for now, just keep it on quarter. When I edit on here, I do normally keep it on half, but since I'm screen recording, I'm going to be nice to my computer and not do that. Okay, so now we need to get our audio imported. I'm going to be using a lot of keyboard commands in this video, so just, if you feel the need to write them down or something so you can remember, go for it. I will say what I do every time, though. So the first keyboard command you're going to use is Control and I, and that's going to allow you to import stuff. So I'm just going to import everything I need for this. I think this should be it. Yep. Okay. So now, first part, bring down your audio. Just click, drag, and it'll put it in your composition. So now you've got your audio going over here. Since I have already made the edit, I'm just going to use it instead of the audio to trim my composition length, but it's the same thing. So let's imagine that this is my audio. This is a completed edit right here. So imagine that this is my audio right here. The way you trim your composition to the same length as your audio is by selecting your layer, pressing O. O will bring you to the very last frame of your layer. You can, by the way, I just zoomed in using my plus key, zoom out using minus key. That's how you do that. It'll bring you to the last frame of your layer. Go one frame down. You can do that by dragging this little marker, or you can do it by using your page up and page down keys. So make sure your little blue time marker thing is at the end, the very end of your audio. Now you're going to use the keyboard shortcut Control K, and that's going to bring up your composition settings window. So I'm just going to drag that over here. And if you can see right here, this number is the time location of your blue time marker. So you are going to make your composition duration the same as that number. And then you're going to press OK. And as you can see, your composition is now the same length as your audio. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to bring the audio back in. And now we've got this the right length. Okay. So now we have created our composition. It's the right length. Everything's all good. And now is one of the most important steps that you will be very mad at yourself if you forget. Saving. Control S. That is going to allow you to save it. Just name it something you'll remember, save it to a place you'll remember. You're ready to go. So part 2, marking your audio. Also a very easy step. I'll show you 2 ways to do it. The first way I'll show you how to do it is if you are marking your audio just using like an MP3 file and audio if you don't have an edit to look at. So if you were to mark this audio out, you'll select it and you'll double tap L, and that will bring up the waveform, which is essentially just the sound. This is what's going on in your audio, just the volume. And the top one is your left ear, I believe, and the bottom one is your right ear. So as you can see right here, it's different. That's because it goes left, right there. But that's just a little fun fact. You don't really need to worry about it. The way you would mark your audio, mark out your beats, is by using your plus key to zoom in, and you find a beat. Listen to it first. I'm just showing you an example. Listen, decide where you want your clips to start, and then line it up right before your beat, as you can see right here. Line your little blue thing up. Then you're going to come over here and just click this button, and it will place a marker wherever your blue time indicator is. So, you could just go through and mark these beats, and there's another one over here, mark that, just sort of, it'll help you line it up, keep your edit on time, it'll also help you to loop things accurately. But since I have a edit to look at, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it down here and can kind of cheat and use these markers, but I'm not going to. I will delete those. So since I'm looking at this edit, I can use it to mark the beats because obviously whoever made this edit, me, already marked the beats when they made it. So you're going to use your page up and your page down keys to come to the first frame of a clip. As you can see, this is the first frame where this clip of him comes in. So you're just going to go there and you're going to press your marker key. And then you're going to go to the next one. Oh, there it is. And you're going to press your marker key. And you're going to do that for your entire edit. And when it gets to the this loops, so when it gets to the loop, just make sure you mark that too. So I'm going to speed it up as I do the rest of this. If you're editing along with it, go ahead and do that. If not, I'll be right with you in a second. So now we've got our beats marked out. We're ready to start editing. You do not need to follow this step. I'm just going to make a second composition where I can keep my edit in so I can refer back to it. So let's just go through and watch it. First, I'm going to use Control S to save because if your After Effects crashes and you haven't saved in 20 minutes, you're going to be very upset with yourself. So let's watch it through and I'll start talking about what we're going to do next. Okay, so as I said, we're taking this in 5 steps. We have created our composition, we have marked our audio, and the next thing we need to do is import our clips. I have a scene. Obviously, this is all from The Witcher. I have a scene from The Witcher. I have a scene pack that I will leave the link to in the description because it was very helpful. It's good quality, so if you're interested in it, just go give that person a like, download it, you know, the whole thing. So now we need to import our clips. Obviously, since I have already made this, I'm going to just be straight up like copying what clips I've put in here. You know, you're probably not going to have the same exact clips. I would prefer if you didn't just copy this. So yeah, use your own clips. I'm going to be using these ones. So the first clip where he blocks that crossbow bolt is not from the scene pack, it is from this. And if you remember, I lined up him hitting the crossbow bolts with the first beat, so I'm just going to do that again. You just click and drag to, you know, line up your clip, move where it starts. Okay, I believe... believe this is it not? Yep, that's the first frame. So then this is going to be our intro scene, and as you can see in this edit, it continues past the second marker just because this sort of fades in. So we are going to cut it over here. The way you cut a layer is by doing Control-Shift-D, that will split it, then backspace, get rid of the stuff you don't need. So if you're looking at this, you can see the second layer, or the first layer on the top, it extends past our composition, and while that doesn't hurt anything, it's messy and it'll be annoying later on. So you're just going to go to the very beginning of your composition, Control-Shift-D to split it, and backspace. And now we've got our intro bit. So the next scene we need to put in here, the next clip, is going to be this of him sitting in a tavern, I believe it is. This one was from the scene pack. So click and drag that scene pack. almost the right clip, not quite. I think that was, here it is. Okay, so Control Shift D, we now have our clip in the right spot. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention is you can use your numbers to jump to the numbered keyframes. It doesn't work above 10, obviously, but you can do that to jump around quicker. If your numbers aren't working for whatever reason, just right-click, go to marker time. Okay, so now we have this scene in here. The next one we have is this one. So we're just gonna click and drag until we find it. Oh, just saw it for a second there. Right here, right here. Now, what is the next one? This scene. I think this happened before, but I could be wrong. I am wrong. Okay, it is right there. Okay, I don't like how I did that. So Control and Z is undo. Helpful key, command, I use it very often. And if you notice, as I'm doing this, I am amassing a lot of extra layers over here. Don't worry about that right now. We'll get rid of them later. It's just for right now. Since I'm using a scene pack, I might want to go back and use something that happened over here. I don't know yet. So I'm just keeping them in for now. Okay, I think should be good. The next part, then that. I have made this is going to be the third time I've made this exact same edit because of my recording failures earlier, so I've really just about memorized the order of these clips. That, and this bit, which is at the beginning. That, and this. Okay. Someone is texting me. Okay, so now that we have all of our clips in, just delete all that extra stuff you're not going to use. I tend to order my clips, the first ones at the bottom, last ones at the top. It just sort of makes sense to me. So we have all of our clips in, and that means we are done with step 3, importing your clips. They're all in. We're all good. We're ready for step 4, editing, which is the fun part, the interesting part, the part you probably all came for. So we're just gonna start from the beginning. The way I'm gonna do this is we're gonna watch my edit, watch the bit that we're about to edit, and then I'll go back and I'll show you how to do it. So let's just watch the intro. Okay. So there are probably 4 things to notice. First is that the sound from the original scene is still in there as a sort of voiceover type thing. Second thing is that the beginning is desaturated, and then when the edit starts, it goes back to normal. The third thing is that there is a flash right here. And there is no fourth thing because I'm not paying attention. So, anyways, there are 3 things you should notice about this part. So we will do this one thing at a time. First thing is we're gonna talk about the voiceover. So when we come back here, this is our layer that is this like opening scene. If you look over here, you can see that it has visual and it has audio. I don't ever keep the audio on the same clip that is being edited. I don't like having any layer that you can both see and hear. I will explain why later. I won't explain why later. I'll explain why now. If you do something to a clip that messes with the time or whatnot, it will affect the audio as well. So I like separating the clip into audio and visual. The way you do that is you just select it, Control D will duplicate it, turn the audio off on the top one and turn the visual off on the bottom one, and now you've got one layer of audio, or one layer of visual and one layer of audio. But it's, it's the same thing. So that's going to allow us to edit this top clip, do what we want with it, and it won't affect the voiceover at all, which is good. I'm just going to change the color of this so I remember that it's the voiceover. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna get rid of those like gross borders that are hanging around it. You're gonna do that by pressing S, and that's gonna bring up your scale. Just zoom it in until you can't see the borders anymore, and there you go. Now we don't have any more gross borders. The next thing we're gonna worry about is the desaturation to saturation. How we're gonna do that is we're going to go to the part where the saturated section starts, which is just going to be right here. We're going to split it by using Control Shift and D. And we're going to come back to this part, and this is where we are going to add our first effect. Going to come over here to your Effects and Presets tab. If you don't see that tab over here, go to Window, Workspace, and then All Panels. And then you should be all good. Now that you're in your effects list, search hue, and you're going to see hue/saturation. Make sure your layer is selected, and then double click. This is going to be under your color correction tab. You can also, drag it to the layer. You can drag it over here, but double clicking just tends to be a little bit faster. So to change the saturation on this, you're going to come up to here in your effects controls. If you don't see it, just use these little arrows. You might still be on your project thing. You can come over here. Just make sure you're on effect controls. And take your saturation and just drag it down. And now it's desaturated, as you can see. My general advice for when you're messing with saturation is never make it just black and white. Keep it in the -70 range. That way it'll just make your edit flow a lot more. It'll keep it a lot more connected as opposed to just being black and white. So now we've got our desaturated section and we've got our saturated section. The next thing I asked you to think about was the flash. So we're going to do that. You're gonna come to the beginning of the flash, you're gonna select this clip, and then you're gonna use Control Y, which is gonna allow you to make a layer that's just a color, just a solid color. We're gonna make it white, and make sure it is 920 by 1080, that is the size of your composition. And as you can see, now you just have this white screen that is the same length as your composition. You're gonna make it the right length by using your left bracket key. That will bring the beginning of your layer to your time marker stamp blue thing. I don't even know what that's called. Then you're gonna come to here and you're gonna use Control-Shift-D, backspace. Okay, so now we've just got this white screen that looks really ugly and bad. We are going to change the opacity settings by using I to go to the beginning of our layer, T to open our opacity keyframes, and then you're going to use the stopwatch. This is the keyframe toggle. It allows you to place keyframes. So you are going to click it right at the beginning of your clip, and that is going to make a keyframe of opacity at 100% right here. Now you're going to go to the end of your clip using O, and you're going to just type 0. That's going to make another keyframe there. So let's look at this. So as you can see, that does not look fantastic. It's just this ugly white flash. It's just kind of gross. The way we fix that is by coming down here to toggle switches and modes until you see this screen with all of these drop-down lists. And you're going to come to this one. It's going to bring up your transfer modes. You're going to use overlay. So this is going to make it look a billion times better. As you can see, that looks so much better. So now let's just watch our beginning. There we go. We have those first two layers done. The next thing that happens in this edit is we can see this bit comes in with a shake and it sort of fades in. It's also got a flash going on, so let's just watch it. Okay. So those are the three things we need to do. Another flash, a shake, and a fade. All very easy to do. Again, this layer has black borders. All of these have black borders. So I'm just going to select all of them because they all come from the same scene pack, and I'm going to scale using S, zoom in. Now we no longer have black borders. We're going to take this and we are going to pre-compose it. You do this by using Control-Shift-C, and what pre-composing does is it essentially makes a folder with your layer inside of it. You're gonna make sure this and this are checked. You don't want this checked, you don't want this checked. And you're gonna say, okay. So now you have this little tan layer here. If you double click on it, it will open it. And as you can see, it's your original layer. So it's just like a folder with your layer inside of it. So you pre-compose it. And now I think, let's do the shake first. This is where you will need your Twitch plugin. Come over here, search Twitch, double click to add it here. You're gonna click the arrow next to enable, and you're gonna enable slide. You're gonna click the stopwatch next to amount, and now you're gonna go forward 5 keyframes using your page down key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you're gonna make another keyframe of 0. You're going to make your speed 8. Now with your layer selected, press U. U is the command to open your effect keyframes. You're gonna click and drag to select both of your keyframes, and you're gonna use F9 to easy ease them. I'm not sure if that is a thing on Mac. I've always done this on Windows or PC or whatever. So if you can't do that for whatever reason, just right click your keyframes, go to keyframe assistant, and then easy ease, and that will do the exact same thing. So make sure your edits are, make sure your keyframes are selected and come over to your graph. Graphs, I remember being really like overwhelmed by and confused by when I started editing, but they are really not as scary as they look. What they do is they just allow you to change the speed of your transitions at certain points in time. So the general rule of thumb is you want your transitions to be fast when they start and slow when they end. The way we're going to change this one's speed is by clicking one of these 2 dots. Don't click the line, click one of the dots. And it's going to give you these little things where you can like toggle the speed, you can change your graph, make it do all sorts of fun things. The Twitch graph is very, very easy. You're just going to hold down Shift and slide your keyframes all the way over this way. And that's all you need to do for your graph. Make sure when you're editing your graph, right-click over here somewhere, edit your value graph, not your speed graph. The only time you should be editing your speed graph is when you use Twixtor and you make velocity. I have a tutorial up on how to do that, so if you want to check that out, check that out. But when you're making any other sort of transition, use your value graph. It just makes it look a lot smoother. So this is what your Twitch graph should look like. So now this had a flash on top of it as well. We are going to cheat. We're going to select the flash that we did earlier, Control D, left bracket, drag it on top, and now we have a flash again. Just make sure you you edit the length so that it's like here-ish, and yeah, there you go. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make this fade in. It's pretty easy. You're just going to be editing your opacity again using T. Make your keyframe, click your stopwatch to make a keyframe at 100, like over here somewhere. And then instead of making your 0 keyframe here, make it 1 before your clip starts. I'll show you why in a second. So now you're going to select your keyframes, F9 to easy ease them. You're going to come to your graph and you're going to make it look something like this. There you go. So the reason why we don't have our 0 keyframe at the beginning of our clip is because if you do that, it sounds self-explanatory, but a lot of people don't realize this. Your first keyframe of your layer is going to be 0 opacity. It's going to come in 1 late. So just make sure your keyframes are like this so you actually see the first frame of your layer. Okay, so okay. Now we need to edit this next one. So let's take a look at what it looks like. Okay. So this part is some cool like revealing whatnot effects. I like it. The first one is this clock reveal. This is where you will need your Sapphire plugin. So we're going to take our clip, pre-compose it using Control-Shift-C, then come over to Effects and Presets, and you're going to search White and then C, and that will bring up this little list. Use White Clock. Your keyframe of 0 should be here, 0% of your wipe, and then your keyframe of 100 should be here. U to bring up your keyframes, F9 to easy ease, and now we're going to look at your graph, and you're going to make it look like this. Yep, there you go. So the next one, I believe, is a reveal downwards. Yes, it is. I'm going to take this, pre-compose it. Now you're going to search linear wipe. This one comes with After Effects. You don't need Sapphire for it, but use the one under transition, not the one under animation presets. So linear wipe, direction, I believe should be 0. Yes. Okay. Then you're going to make a keyframe at 0% right here and 100% here. You're going to edit your graph. So it looks like this. Okay. Now this one was a circle. Wipe circle. So pre-compose yet again. Then wipe circle. That's from Sapphire again. Wipe percent 0. Wipe percent 100. F9 to easy ease. And make your graph look something like that. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens after this is revealed. Okay, so it sort of comes in a little bit and then goes out. We're gonna do that, but first, we're going to take all of these overlapping layers and we're going to pre-compose them into one single layer. The reason I want to do this is because if I make that zoom out transition just on here, if I am editing this layer by itself, it could, be moving around doing whatever, and the layer behind it would remain unaffected, and we don't want that. So we're going to take all of this, Control-Shift-C, pre-compose. Now we have one big layer that is, all of the stuff we just edited. Okay, so the way I did that little in and out thing is by using the warp effect. This one also comes with After Effects. You don't want arc, you want fisheye. And this is the funniest thing to me. Every time I use fisheye and I just select it and that's just hilarious to me every time. And I've literally been using this I've been doing this transition, I think, for 2 years, and it still makes me laugh every single time, so. It's added, humor, added entertainment. You're gonna make your bend 0 at the beginning, bring it back to normal. Click your stopwatch, and then come down here, technically to the first frame of the next clip, make your keyframe -100. You're gonna use U to open your keyframes, you're gonna select them, you're gonna F9 easy ease them, and now our graph is going to be a little bit different, and that's still so funny to me. Okay. You're gonna hold shift, drag that all the way over. You're gonna use this and you're gonna drag it up past this sort of like horizontal thing. That'll make it come in right before it goes out. It's a little too gentle, so just drag it up. Okay, so that looks pretty good. But the way to make it look better is to add motion blur. None of the things we've done so far have required motion blur, but you are going to need it when you edit. Make sure this button is selected. It's blue. That enables motion blur, and make sure your layer that needs motion blur, you click it right there. Now this is going to have motion blur, and it's going to look a little nicer. Okay. So as you can see, this transition is still very gentle. It's not a lot happening, but we can fix that. Select your edit, or select your effect, Control-C to copy it. Now you're going to pre-compose this, motion blur, Control-V to paste, and if you open U, it's the same exact thing, but it makes it look better. Look at that. All right. So now we have our first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things all done. Let's take a look at what happens next. Okay, so this one's pretty simple. It just goes out and it has that little pink and green color effect. That's all that happens with this layer. Again, we're going to start by pre-composing. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to do that pink and green color effect. Duplicate your clip using Control-D. Come over here and look for pseudo color. This is another thing from the Sapphire suite. If you add it to your top clip, you're going to see it makes it look really crazy and bright and whatnot. You get the pink and green just by bringing the saturation down. And there you go. Now you have your little pink and green effect. Make it just a tiny bit more. So come to the beginning of the layer with the color on. Use T. Make an opacity keyframe of 100. And make another opacity keyframe of 0. And there you go. You have your little color effect. Now you're going to pre-compose both of these. And now we're going to do our zoom out. We're going to end our zoom out over here. So you're going to use S to open your scale keyframes. Make a keyframe of 100 over here. Come up to the beginning to 20. Add motion blur. You're going to use F9 to ease your keyframes. And you're going to make your graph look something like this. There you go. Make sure you save often because After Effects does crash, and it really sucks when it does and you lose work. Alright, so that is done. Now we're on to this clip. Let's look at it. Okay, so if you take a look at it, it sort of starts to come in and then it actually comes in. So it comes out again. The second time has a shake on it. We are going to start this by splitting it here using Control-Shift-D. So we're going to edit the, there's a partial opacity section and there's a full opacity section. So we're going to edit those two separately, just make it a little bit easier. Pre-compose your shorter layer. Add motion blur. Now we're just going to do another scale out using the same things, 100, 220, F9, and then your graph will look like this. So now to have it fade out, we're gonna make our opacity 0 here, and at the beginning, make it like, I don't know, 76, 75. Okay. So that's good enough. We don't really need to edit our opacity graph at all right there. It looks fine as it is. So now pre-compose this. There's lots of pre-composing. I didn't know how to pre-compose for like a while and my edits were disastrous because of it. So pre-composing is a very important step and you need to do it all the time. So we're gonna do another scale out, 220 to 100. Add easy ease. Go to the graph, make it look like this. Okay. The other thing this had on it was it had a twitch shake. You could go through and do it again, or you could go find the part where you did it before, copy, and paste. That is by far the easier way to do it. Okay, so in this clip, it has a slide down transition, but it sort of like comes up first a little bit. That's a fun way to add a little bit more, make your edit a little bit more dynamic, is not just do a regular, I just started to point at my monitor like you could see it, but you can't. Instead of just doing a regular slide down, have it go up a little bit and then down. I do that a lot with rotations. I'll have it go to the side a little bit and then over. It just makes it look a little nicer. So you are going to add the effect motion tile. This comes with After Effects as well. What this does is it just mirrors your clip to the outside. Make your height 500 and don't click mirror edges. So now you're going to use P to open up your position keyframes. You're going to click your stopwatch, go to the end. And the way I do my slide up and slide downs is I go down one full repetition of the clip and then another half. That's about how far I go. Now right-click the word position and separate your dimensions. What this is going to do is it's going to make your X keyframes and your Y keyframes separate. Since this is just a Y slide and up and down slide, you only need to edit your Y keyframes. So take your Y keyframe and bring it one down. Make sure you have motion blur enabled and then select your Y keyframes. And we're going to edit the graph. Your graph is going to be similar to the one we did earlier where you drag it down a little too far. And it does that. Very easy. Okay, let's take a look at what happens next. Another easy clip, it just slide down and it fades out. Okay, pre-compose, Control-Shift-C, motion tile, height, 500. Now you're going to use P at the very end of your clip, make a keyframe, and then you're going to drag it up like to there, separate your dimensions, edit your Y keyframes, and add motion blur. As you can see, it makes it look kind of crappy. So you're going to take this and slide it back on. if you noticed, it sort of does this weird thing where it like freezes for a second. I don't know why After Effects does this. It only does it on this computer. My laptop, where I made this edit on, it didn't do that. So I need to fix that. Not sure what's going on. But what you're going to do to sort of get rid of that gross frame is you're going to take your transition and you're just going to slide it one back. And then it looks fine. So now you're going to use T, opacity 100, opacity 0. Okay. We are getting very close to that. I only got 4 more things to edit, which is good because I have a meeting in 40 minutes and I'd like to be done with this. Okay, so now on this clip, it zooms in on this guy's face, had a little shocked emoji, I don't even know. But the zoom is not centered around the middle, it's centered over here. So I'll show you how to do that. First, we are going to add our emoji clip art. I believe it is this. Yes, it is. We're gonna trim it using our left bracket key, Control-Shift-D, backspace. So looking at this emoji, it's got this gross like background on it. We're gonna fix that by adding color key. If I can type color key under obsolete, you are going to select one of the colors in the background and then you're just gonna kind of get rid of it. Make your resolution full for this so you can actually see how much of the color is left around the outside. So there we go. That leaves a smooth outside. But as you can see, his face is all sorts of messed up. We're gonna fix that as well. Duplicate your layer, and on the top layer, get rid of color key. Now, just for now, we're gonna turn this layer visibility off. We're gonna zoom in a little bit and use H to drag it around, use V to go back to your regular thing. Use G, which will allow you to draw a mask on your clip, and make sure you're drawing this on the clip that does not have color key on it. Just draw a big circle around the spots the emoji is missing. Turn your visibility back on. And now we have a regular emoji. Gonna turn my resolution back to quarter just so that my computer can be happy with me. Now we're gonna pre-compose our emoji layer. We're gonna scale it down to like there. We're gonna use the position to put it like here-ish. And then we're going to pre-compose both of those things together. Okay, so now we are going to do the zoom in centered around this guy's face. The way you do that is by changing the anchor point of your clip. The anchor point is essentially the center of your clip, for lack of a better term. It is the center that all of your edits and your transitions will focus on. So if you scale in, scale out, this is the anchor point right here. Scale in, scale out, it's around the middle where your anchor point is. We change that by pressing Y, turning off snapping up here, and dragging your anchor point to like here-ish. Now, if we scale in and we scale out, you can see it's not around the middle, it's around that anchor point, which is good. It's what we want. So we're gonna have our first scale keyframe at 100, and we're just gonna sort of like zoom into here or something. 164 is, this is one of those things where you just do it until it looks nice. Then you're going to easy ease using F9. You're gonna make your graph look like this. Okay. Oh. So here's an oopsie. I did not trim this layer right, so we're gonna do that by just sliding it down a little bit. And that should fix the problem. There we go. Okay. So this is another fisheye zoom out type thing right here. Pretty easy. We're just gonna recompose again. That will return your anchor point to the middle of your clip, which is what we need for this transition. fisheye. Still making me laugh. Nope, not what I want. You know, I have a simple sense of humor. Loud is funny and fisheye transitions are funny. That's about it for me. So we're just gonna make the graph look like this. Add motion blur. I think this still looks a little bit weak, so I'm gonna pre-compose, Control-Shift-C, Control-V to paste that. There we go. Okay, so let's watch this. The next one is just a very simple zoom out, zoom in. Start again, pre-composing, Control-Shift-C. Now here is another fun little tip from me. If you do your scale out and your scale in like this, I'm just doing it fast and not really explaining, just for the sake of the example. If you do them both on the same layer like this, it's not going to look very nice. And let me show you why. It is very fast and not very smooth, which can be fine for some edits, but for this one, I've been trying to make it pretty smooth and fluid, so I don't want that. I'm gonna just do my scale out transition first. I'm gonna fix that graph. And then I'm going to pre-compose this, and then I'm going to do my scale in. So doing this separately will actually make it look a lot smoother and a lot nicer. Like that. Okay, so this zooms in and does this cool little off-center rotation thing. I love using this rotation. I do it all the time in my edits. The way you do that is by pressing Y, we're gonna edit our anchor point again, and clicking snapping. What snapping does is it just means when you drag your anchor point or whatever, it's going to snap it to a geometrically even place like this. Like it's dragging it along the Y-axis, in the center, X-axis. You can put it in the middle, I believe. Can you? Yeah, you can put it out here. You're gonna put it down there. Now you're gonna press R and we're gonna make our rotation start about here. And I think, which direction did this rotation go? Went that way and then it went to the left. Okay. So now we are going to drag it until it looks like this, about -154, somewhere around there. And we're gonna F9, and we're gonna do the same sort of thing where you make your graph go above the horizontal boundary. So it sort of does that, and then does that. Now we need to mirror it around the outside. So we're gonna add motion tile. And we're gonna make both our width and our height 300. So this kind of goes too far to the side, I'd say, so I'm gonna fix that by coming back in here, dragging that down a bit. That's better. Okay, so we're gonna pre-compose this again, and we're gonna do our scale in by making keyframe at 100 and a keyframe of 55, adding motion blur, F9 easy ease, I just deselected this, F9 easy ease, making our graph look like this. Okay. Okay, so this one has kind of a lot of stuff going on. It has that rotation transition where it fades out, then it comes out, and it goes back in, and it flashes, and it shakes, and then it loops. So that's a lot of stuff going on in one clip, so one thing at a time. We are going to split it right here, and we're going to edit this part first. So Control-Shift-C, pre-compose, Y to drag our anchor point there, R to make a rotation keyframe around there. Then we're gonna have it start like there. Motion tile, 300, 300, F9. So again, my computer's doing this weird thing where it sort of like freezes for a second, so just don't mind me. I'm gonna drag my keyframes back a second so it looks nicer. Okay, this also fades out, so opacity to 0 using T. Okay. The next thing it does is it zooms out and sort of goes back in for a second. Just gonna add a marker right there. Control-Shift-C to pre-compose. We're gonna make our scale keyframe of 100 right there. 220 here, and then over here we're gonna do one at like 120. Now our graph for this is gonna be a little bit different because it's 3 keyframes. So you're gonna drag these two over, drag that one up a little bit, make sure motion blur is on, drag that one down. Yeah, just like that. So now we have a little bit of a flash right here, a little flicker, I'd say. I'm gonna do that by using opacity 100, going down to opacity 0. Nope, you're not gonna do that actually. Opacity 100, go down to opacity 100, 0. Now you're gonna copy that, paste it, and then our third flash is gonna happen a little bit different. You're gonna go down to 0, go down 1, 100, and let's take a look at that. Yeah, just like that. Except I just realized when I made this before, it never actually went to 0 opacity. As you can see, it's still there just a little bit. So we're going to change our keyframes that we just made at 0 to 15. Just make it look a little better. Okay. Okay, so now we have that sort of shake thing that happened at the end. This is another thing you'll need Sapphire for. You're going to pre-compose this using Control-Shift-C. You're going to come to your effects and presets, and you're going to add S-Shake from Sapphire. The only 2 things you're really going to be messing with are the amplitude and the frequency. Let's make sure motion blur is on. Amplitude pretty much just means how much, and frequency means how fast. So you're going to start your amplitude at 0 around here. And you're going to make your amplitude like, I don't know, 3.7. That's where I'm going to do it. And then you're going to make your frequency to like 9. This is one of those effects that I'm not super comfortable with. I don't use it that often, so it's kind of just a guess and check type thing for me. So let's look at that. Just like that. That looks good. Okay, so now we have to loop all of this. The way you do that is by selecting everything you need to loop, pre-composing it to one big layer. Then you're going to use O to go to the end, page down, Control D, left bracket. There we go. We've looped it. Okay. So here's the thing that I noticed when I first made this, is that this loop looks terrible. It just does. It looks bad. Like, look at that. That's gross. The way I fixed that is by making another twitch shake at the beginning of our second loop. So you just enable slide, I'm out 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 8, U, 9, holding down shift, Okay, so as you can see, that just got kind of crazy when it's trying to play it back. It's just because it's trying to render. Okay, so we've got all this done. The last thing we really need to do is muffle our audio and sort of have it fade out. This is done by selecting your audio and selecting L, audio keyframe 0, page down, audio keyframe -3, and then you come to the end and make a keyframe of like -21. So now you're going to add the effect bass and treble. At the same place where you have the keyframe of 0, just click those two stopwatches, page down, bass 100, treble -100. So let's listen to that. There we go. Okay, so from here, there are sort of two options to what you could do, and it just depends on the computer you're editing on. If you're editing on a nice computer, it doesn't even have to be a super fancy computer, just, a nice computer. We are going to go ahead and make colorings, watermarks, the whole thing. If you are not editing on a nice computer, if you're editing on a laptop or something, I would recommend just rendering this as is, and then you'll go back. So, no, hang on. I'd recommend just rendering this as is. So just sort of skip ahead to my rendering instructions. And what you're going to do is you're going to, once you've, rendered it out, you're going to take your edit that you've just rendered and put it back in. And then you can add colorings and watermarks and whatnot on top of that. But I'm going to talk about what to do if you are editing on a slightly nicer computer first. So you're going to select everything except your audio and your voiceover, and you're going to pre-compose it. Now you're going to add looks. I forgot to mention this at the beginning, you need looks to add colorings. You're going to have to download a coloring pack if you don't know how to make your own. I don't actually know how to make my own colorings. I've been using the same pack for 3 years, I think. 2 or 3 years. By someone who I don't even know if they edit anymore. I use this exact coloring on everything. So there we go. We've got our coloring added. Now we need to add watermark. My watermark is just Eevee. It has been for forever. I just sort of put it right there, and then I make it soft light. And the thing about soft light is that when a clip fades out, it's going to make your watermark go to white because there's nothing underneath it. The way you fix that is just by adding Control-Y. Add a black solid underneath your edit. And then your watermark will fade out as well. So that's how you do that. Now rendering. File, export, add to Adobe Media Encoder Q. I use Media Encoder. You can render through After Effects, I believe, but I have never understood how to do it. So I just use Media Encoder for everything. This is what it looks like. This is your queue. As you can see, this is a thing I canceled. Just gonna delete that. It'll probably take a second for your edit to show up here. Look, there it is. So just make sure H.264, match source height, bitrate, and then this is where it's going to save your edit. It's going to automatically save it in your project folder in documents, your documents file, documents area. I don't know what I'm saying. So I mean, keep it there if you want. That's where I save it. But your file name is important. This is something that a lot of people don't actually know about. your file name is going to help your edits get promoted to people. So name it something with good SEO. For example, for this, I'd say The Witcher, Geralt, Henry Henry Cavill, sorry, mispronounced it. Those are all search terms that are going to help my edit get promoted to people. Because when you upload it to Instagram, to YouTube, to wherever, that platform is going to read the name of your file. And if it's just some random, composition 1 or 2020 December 30th, whatever, it's not going to get you good SEO. So make sure you name your file something that people will search. Name it something with search terms in it. So just hit save, and then you're going to hit play, and it's going to render. Obviously, I'm not going to render it because I already made that. I have the finished thing. So yeah, that is, once it's rendered, you should have your edit. I hope that was helpful. If you have questions, just let me know. My throat is so dry from talking so much. So yeah, I hope that helped you. I hope that made sense. If you have questions, feel free to leave a comment or DM me on Instagram. Yeah, if you followed this tutorial, then please, please give me credit. That would be much appreciated. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is when people do not credit properly or steal. So yeah, please give me credit if you followed this tutorial, you post it anywhere. I hope it was helpful. I'm planning to do some more of these. Maybe I'll do one that's like more complicated. Maybe I'll do one that's way easier. I don't know, but just let me know what you want to see. Let me know if you have questions. Hope this helped. So until next time, have fun editing. Bye.